Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
When we think of disasters, we think of nature's awesome wrath. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes. But through our evolution, we've created a new destructive force to fear. Ourselves. What you're about to see is real. All the stories are true. A devastating explosion destroys an entire community.
I thought it was a nuclear explosion or it was the end of the world.
Well, we were certain there wouldn't be any survivors.
Hundreds are trapped in a metal coffin in one of the worst train wrecks in history.
The water is up to my neck. The water is coming above my neck.
Somebody said, "Oh my God, we're all gonna die."
Mob rioting turns a stadium into a death trap. A hijacked plane crashes with horrifying consequences.
The pilot announced that the plane is going to crash land in the ocean.
Trapped in a high-rise fire with no escape. A monster truck rips through a crowd.
It's the last picture of this man before the end of his life.
A department store collapses on thousands of unsuspecting shoppers, burying them alive. The footage you're about to see contains some of the most graphic scenes of accidents ever caught on tape. And while they may be disturbing, they are real. It's what happens when disasters strike. Man ravenously consumes Earth's resources. We arrogantly harness her volatile energies to feed our ever-growing appetite for comfort, convenience, and new technologies. Immense quantities of oil and gas surround us. Tanker trucks, pipelines, refineries, and we barely notice. We assume it is all safely under control. But these fuels are powerful monsters. When they break out of their man-made cages, they bear down with a vengeful ferocity that has no equal. Edison, New Jersey, a suburban city of 100,000. Nestled on the outskirts of town, Durham Woods, an upscale apartment complex of over 2,000 residents.
The bus stop for school kids was right underneath our window. It was definitely a place he wanted to come home to, and it was definitely a home.
Everybody that saw our apartment said, you know, you're really lucky to have this type of apartment. It was a real safe haven.
It was a loud noise, and it woke us up. I thought it was a tornado.
In the back of my mind, I was like, man, this is it. You know, this is a nuclear blast.
When I opened up the balcony door, the building in front of me was gone. It was completely gone. It was there a couple of minutes beforehand, and now it was gone. I was like, and the building started shaking, and I'm like, we ain't gonna survive staying in here. I yelled down to my wife, said, you know, let's get out of here. Let's run out the back.
It was just flames everywhere coming after us. And when we looked back, I thought we were gonna die because the flames were coming faster than we were actually running. It's like, wow, I mean, is this it? This is how it ends?
I yelled to the other guys, I was saying, look at this, it's daylight. And we all just looked up and was like, oh man, there's something wrong. I remember looking at my partner on the way there and just saying, it was nice knowing you. This is one of those, you just don't think you're coming back.
We had every reason to believe that we were dealing with a massive casualty situation, hundreds of potential bodies in the fire. We didn't know what we were dealing with at this time. Was it a bomb that had been dropped? Was it a terrorist attack of some sort? The flames were probably 400, 500 feet in the air. The smoke was much higher than that. We were concerned, of course, that this gigantic plume was poisonous.
It was like hell. It's like, you ever see some like the movies where people are sitting there suffering and screaming and panicking and the loud noise and fire everywhere? That's pretty much what it was. The only thing that was missing was the man with the with the horns and a pitchfork.
500 firefighters from all over the state arrived to combat the mysterious blaze.
I see firefighters within 700-800 feet of this blowtorch. It's beyond my imagination how they existed there.
We then finally learned what we were dealing with was a natural gas explosion. And when we finally contacted the gas company, I couldn't believe it, but they could not initially figure out how to turn off the gas.
At last, they locate the valve, but it's going to take 740 turns of a 3.5-foot wheel to shut it off.
I pull up to this valve, and there's two men pulling on this valve with all their strength, and they're eking it like an inch. I'm thinking to myself, this is not good.
Inch by inch, they strain for over 2 hours to shut off the valve.
We did start to notice a sudden relaxing of everything, like the noise wasn't as intense, and then the light wasn't as intense, and then the heat wasn't as intense.
By dawn, the fires are extinguished.
It's like a war scene. You ever seen a war scene with pictures on TV? Like a bomb blew up everything, and all you see is like rubble.
Dreading their task, rescue workers used dogs to search for human remains. But one by one, as survivors are accounted for, an incredible revelation: the fire claimed none.
I'm surprised everybody got out. We're just lucky. I think we're all lucky.
The way it worked was the pipe first exploded, but no flame yet. So the time it took between the explosion and when that ignition occurred was the time that allowed the people in the apartments closest to run for their lives. To this day, it's hard for me to conceive of that kind of power running through residential, densely populated areas of this country. It's the equivalent of a time bomb.
The potential for a pipeline explosion is not limited to Edison. In fact, millions of Americans live within a few miles of a pipeline like the one below Durham Woods. They snake beneath all our communities, ticking time bombs delivering our precious fuels. Still ahead, out of gas and out of control, a harrowing hijacking ends in terror. Then, panic in the night, a train plunges off a bridge. Mob madness rules, a soccer game turns deadly, and a monster truck out of control.
Those fingers in your hair, that slide, come hither stare, that look that lures them there, it's witchcraft.
It's new adjusting finesse, now with hydrating silk proteins, smooths every strand so hair's soft, silky.
Those gorgeous flowing strands of it, I've got to get my hands on it, it's witchcraft.
Get the look that gets the touch with new silk protein finesse.
The Star Wars saga continues with old friends,
switch off,
and new heroes on new worlds. In The Empire Strikes Back Special Edition, now playing. And then on March 14th, take cover, for the final battle is about to begin. The last chapter in the Star Wars Trilogy Special Edition, Return of the Jedi. And still playing separately in theaters, Star Wars, all 3 films rated PG.
Right now at Payless, when you buy 1 pair of shoes, you get the 2nd pair at half off. All men's, women's, and kids. The Payless Shoe Source buy a pair, get a pair half off sale. Doesn't it feel good to pay less?
Hate the taste of Arm & Hammer toothpaste? Then try new Smooth Spearmint. Now the baking soda toothpaste that dentists recommend most has a refreshing spearmint ribbon of flavor. New Smooth Spearmint from Arm & Hammer.
Wednesday, it's the most dramatic night of television on television. First, it will shock you.
Call a doctor. Some guy just OD'd next door.
And it will rock their lives.
He's dead? I can't believe that he was doing heroin.
A powerful new 90210. Then, you don't know you've hit rock bottom. Until it's too late.
Billy, look out!
Party of 5. It all happens Wednesday starting at 8, 7 Central on Fox. They've seen fantastic worlds. They've survived countless dangers. But this Friday,
Rickman's sliding without us.
one of them will make the ultimate sacrifice.
We won't be coming to the new world.
A brand new Sliders, Friday at 8/7 Central on Fox.
At the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, the Iron Horse chugged its way into American myth, ending the age of provincial living. Today, every aspect of our lives has reached global proportions. We must find new ways to travel, farther and faster. But as high-speed travel increases, so do the odds for tragedy.
My first trip by train. Usually I drive, and I was really excited at the fact that here I could watch the scenery and not have to concentrate on traffic and interstates and all of this.
I got on the train in Los Angeles, and I was going to go the whole route from Los Angeles to Miami, and I was riding coach, so I expected to meet a lot of different people.
The lights were down low. There was nothing but just comfort. That's all you can say. It was just very relaxing, and it's like it would rock you to sleep.
When we were in that region of the country, the stars are just incredible. You know, beautiful scenery. Everybody was having a very pleasant trip.
All was normal as the Sunset Limited sped into the night.
The bridge is gone now. We got cars burning, people in the river. We need help. Any kind of help you can get down here.
3:30 a.m., just outside Mobile, Alabama. The Sunset Limited plunges off a bridge and into the murky waters of the Connor Creek Bayou.
Listen, this is Amtrak train, the supervisor. We're on the river. The bridge is gone now. We got cars burning, people in the river, people in the water. We're trying to help them, but we need all kind of help. Yes, ma'am, we need help.
When the accident happened, I just woke up. I was startled. I was thrown up against the back of the seats in front of me. There was darkness all around me. There was just incredible shaking motion, like an earthquake.
And the world turned upside down. The water's up to my neck. The water's coming above my neck. Move forward, move forward.
You just heard people moaning and groaning. There was kind of screaming in terror. There was pain.
Salvage divers hear the distress calls and race to the scene.
When we were coming, we were northbound, and it was dark and it was foggy, and we were bumping into everything at 30 miles an hour. And we looked over, and I said, "Man, look, the sun's coming up." I looked at my watch and said, "There's no way. The sun doesn't come up that early." And then I looked at my compass and realized that it wasn't the sun, it was a fire.
As the diesel fire spreads and rescue workers are still miles away, the desperate passengers are left to fend for themselves.
I knew where the emergency window was. I just didn't know where I was.
The first thing I thought was just trying to get out, because I knew if I could get out myself, you know, perhaps I could help some other people get out.
Women and children first. Women and children first. And I believe everybody said, I'm gonna lose it. I didn't know there was any children on there. Michael reached up, took my hand, and he said, "Can you swim?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Jump, your head's gonna go under, but I'll pull you right up."
And so I'd look up, you know, I'd offer my hand and we'd take it, and they'd go under for a few seconds, come out, and then I would assist them over to a safe place.
As Michael struggles to help passengers escape, the frantic rescuers search for other survivors.
We've been told there's another car out there. We think it's right over here, but we don't know it. And then we got in there, and it was underwater, and we tried to air it up, but there was air bubbles coming up. Then one of my divers went in, and he said that, you know, everybody was dead.
47 people died on the Sunset Limited, making it one of the worst train crashes in American history.
I think fate is fickle. So we're just real lucky. If we had to have an accident that we had Michael.
When you're in a disaster such as this, where life is at risk. You're instantly bonded.
Good to see you.
Just disappointed that you didn't get to meet that person earlier.
Despite tragedies like the Sunset Limited, the Iron Horse will forever remain a major part of our folklore. And since the Wright brothers, the plane has also been an American icon. But as we are constantly reminded, every time we fly, we tempt gravity's relentless grasp. Anything can go wrong. A mechanical failure, a sudden storm, an act of terrorism. On November 23, 1996, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 961, carrying 175 passengers and crew, takes off from Addis Ababa.
I was on a business trip, and I was in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and I was moving down or traveling to Nairobi.
I was meeting my husband. My husband is in Lagos. We got our business over there.
We were going to take a safari with two companies in Kenya.
Before reaching cruising altitude, the lady sitting next to me, Rani Nankani, who we started to chat. Everything was quite normal. Taking off, the announcements were very, very normal.
Suddenly, terror shatters the calm.
What I thought was somebody was crazy flitted down the right aisle real fast, saying things as he ran, and somebody came on the left-hand side down the aisle, and as they did so, I thought, uh-oh, here's the hijacking.
The hijackers storm the cockpit, announcing to the passengers that there will be a change in destination. Brandishing a fire extinguisher, which they claim contains a bomb, they tell the pilot they want to go to Australia. The pilot protests, pointing to the fuel gauge. It reads a quarter full. They will never make it.
Some people screaming, some people crying, some other people in the back that were praying on the floor, including one of the stewardesses. So one father had 3 children on his lap trying to hold all of them together.
After 3 hours, the pilot makes the inevitable announcement. The plane is out of fuel. He tells the passengers to prepare for a crash landing.
There was a period of time that I thought to myself, well, you know, maybe I might die.
I was thinking of God. I knew God is with me. It was so strong, the feeling was so strong. Like Ron was there, and then he said, I'm cold. My hands are cold, he told me. He said, I told him, let's join hands together.
5,000 feet. The plane speeds through its unavoidable descent.
We're looking out the window to watch the aircraft descending toward the water.
Impact is fast approaching.
We took the position for crash landing, Ron and me.
I took my glasses off with about 2 or 3 seconds to go. Gave one bad last hard look at the hijacker who was standing up. So I gave him an evil eye just like this.
Hurtling at 200 miles per hour, they near the tropical island paradise of Grand Comoros, where a sunbathing couple is videotaping their vacation.
You don't hear me.
Well.
What's it? What's it? Oh, maliping. What is this? Oh, what is
The plane then, within a second or two thereafter, hit the water, and the first bump was rather gentle. Then there was a hard bump, uh-oh. And then it was tense, tumbling like a washing machine. And at that point I realized, I said, uh-oh, looks like I'm dead.
1 second later, I was in debris, and we heard a big swoosh, whoosh of water rushing into the aircraft.
I was looking for Ron, and I was, just looking around. Then I saw him coming out from the water, just very close to me, and his face was full of blood. So I told him, Ron, is it you? Is it you? He said, yes, Rani, you're there. And we survived the air crash, he said. We are alive.
My foot was bleeding real badly. It was sliced down the middle. So I was anxious to get somewhere, and also, worried about sharks, crocodiles.
Pulled my foot up, and I saw my foot. It was just hanging on a piece of skin, like.
I said, I'm alive. You know how you sort of talk to yourself. I'm alive. And then I looked for my wife, who had been sitting on my right. She was gone. I looked to the left. a quick movement like that. And she was sitting there on my left instead of on my right, and she too was sitting upright in her seat. She looked okay. I said, "Are you okay?" She said, "I'm okay."
Tourists who moments before had been enjoying holiday relaxation are now thrust into a life and death struggle to rescue survivors.
I swam back to her and I inflated her vest. I disconnected her seatbelt, and she fell down toward me, and I said, "Just grab my neck."
And he caught hold of my hand and he pulled me towards him. And then I was so scared of my foot, I said, "Okay, then there's nothing you can do. Either it's there or it's not there."
And so I swam out of the debris. I'm just paddling out of the debris. I'm swimming backwards. She's holding onto my neck. And I said, "Where are we going? Where are we going?" And then we spotted a boat, and I simply swam to that boat. And then we got to the beach, and we were unloaded.
Minutes before an idyllic resort, Grand Comoros now resembles a war zone. Emergency crews struggle to keep the most seriously injured alive and retrieve the dead from the wreckage. Ronnie, Frank, Ron, and the rest of the survivors are brought to the local makeshift hospital. Ronnie's brother came from India to meet her.
When I saw him, I just couldn't believe it, like he's here. He gave me a big hug. He said, "Ranu, I've got you back again." And he was very emotional also. We just couldn't let go of each other. Told him, "You know what, Ron saved me." He said, "Who's Ron?" I said, "He was sitting next to me on the flight, and he's the one who saved me, and this is what happened." Immediately he got up. I told him, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to go meet Ron."
Well, he came in and he said, "You're the angel that saved my sister's life."
He's an angel, definitely.
And there's this feeling of uneasiness. There's this feeling of having death closer to you than you're used to. The people in front of me, they died. Almost all of the first-class people, they died. And a great deal of the people who were back in economy, they drowned. And why me? Why me? And the only answer that I can say to that is, God wants me to do something here, so I'm here. And I don't know what that is, and I'm working on that one.
52 people survived Flight 961. 127 died, including all 3 hijackers. To this day, their motives remain a mystery. Up next, trapped in a high-rise fire with no escape. The store collapses on thousands of unsuspecting shoppers. Hundreds are buried alive. Our need for speed, addiction, and kills. The human stampede tramples everything in its path.
Do you have any relatives? No. That can be a blessing.
After 20 years apart, this family's getting back together.
You mind if I smoke?
Yes.
Okay, I'll be real quiet.
Mom, I'm really sorry I burnt the house down.
ABC raves, I promise it'll make you laugh. And now Diane Keaton is an Academy Award nominee for Best Actress.
Yes!
Meryl Streep, Leonardo DiCaprio, Diane Keaton, and Robert De Niro. Marvin's Room, rated PG-13. Now playing select cities Friday everywhere.
A fellow came into Saturn the other day, knew exactly what he wanted. Color, options, everything.
As overpopulation escalates out of control, more and more people swarm into the world's already swelling cities. Space becomes a precious resource. To make room, we are forced to build skyward, erecting towering structures that reach higher and higher. But when thousands, or even tens of thousands, occupy a single building and something goes wrong, the possibility of massive casualties is staggering.
The risk in very large buildings for a mega disaster is clearly high. Buildings kill.
New Delhi, India, the epitome of high-rise terror. Fire erupts in an office building. For trapped workers, all exits are blocked. There is no way out. Desperate to avoid the searing flames and choking smoke, victims cling to window ledges and roof railings. Fire engines rush to the scene, but their ladders can't reach the terrified workers. From across the street, construction workers come up with an ingenious idea. They try to reach the anguished victims with a crane and cement basket. Just a few feet from success, heartbreak. Hope. A helicopter arrives to lift those trapped on the roof to safety. But in a cruel irony, the blades fan the flames, and the attempt is called off. Hope is lost. With no options left for the firefighters, the construction workers have another idea to span the chasm and give the office workers a route to escape. They quickly lash together lengths of pipe and rickety bamboo. The workers maneuver their makeshift bridge into position more than 100 feet above the street. The exodus begins. Halfway across, the risk is greatest. There is no going back. Miraculously, the bridge holds, and dozens are brought to safety. Only 3 die in the fire, when the toll could have been hundreds. The survivors will never enter a high-rise again without wondering if they will ever come out.
People, when they go into a public space, they assume that they are safe. But if somebody is trying to cut corners in the construction, if there's a weak link, that could feed down the line and be just lurking there, waiting till something happens.
Seoul, South Korea, June 29, 1995. The exclusive Sampung department store is jammed with more than 1,000 shoppers. The roof begins to crack. Alerted of this, the owners of the store flee in terror, but coldly don't tell their employees or customers. 15 minutes later, a thunderous rumble rocks the building.
Everything started to shake. I didn't know what was happening. We were all terrified. And then the whole building just collapsed. I was knocked out. When I regained consciousness, I could hear people around me screaming in pain.
Hundreds of rescuers race to the scene. Braving the unstable mass, emergency teams desperately dig for survivors. Some are saved, but as many as 500 are still trapped beneath the smoldering rubble. As day turns to night, rescue efforts continue under the white-hot glare of floodlights. If survivors aren't found soon, they will die from their injuries or suffocate.
I was bleeding pretty bad. I was thinking I could die at any moment, but I wanted to live, so I fought to stay calm. But it wasn't easy.
Day 2, the frantic search intensifies. Now, a new danger. Fire breaks out, filling the rubble with dense, choking smoke. Water hoses extinguish the flames, but create a deadly crisis.
At first, there were people alive all around me. We talked in the beginning. As the water from the fire hoses rose around them, they all drowned, and it was silent.
Then, a cry from below. Someone is alive. Miraculously, a man has survived. Searchers can only see his head and terrified eyes. But in moments, he is freed from his concrete tomb. This latest rescue inspires hope. Efforts accelerate.
I slept a lot. There were many times when I couldn't tell if I was dreaming or awake. It was completely pitch dark, so I didn't even know how much time was passing.
Day 4. Emotions reach the breaking point. Relatives of those unaccounted for challenge emergency workers to keep looking for their loved ones. But realistically, hope fades that anyone will be found alive. 10 days after the collapse, rescue efforts are abandoned. Workers now clear the rubble and search for the dead. Then, incredibly, another voice from within the rubble. Dozens of emergency workers converge on the spot.
When they heard my voice and shouted back to me, I was ecstatic. You can't imagine what it feels like to realize you will not die, but you will live to see your family again.
After 10 days of entrapment, Choi Young-suk has lost 22 pounds, but is otherwise in surprisingly good health. "501 people died in the Sampung department store collapse. 900 were injured. The owner and others were sentenced to jail for skirting building laws and using shoddy construction materials.
I'm studying to become a construction engineer. I will never let this happen again. Buildings must be safe.
What do you do when 15 seconds means the difference between life and death? Rolling thunder sends fans fleeing for their lives as monster trucks wreak havoc. And if you thought there was safety in numbers, mobs go out of control with deadly consequences.
This little celebration is brought to you by the people who've helped so many other people understand and enjoy cellular phones. Radio Shack, America's #1 retailer of cellular phones. Surprised? We're not. We're just happy. Radio Shack, you've got questions, we've got answers. Activate now and get 1 year of free roadside emergency service.
Booty. Fleshy, rounded lobes. A little something something.
Can I get some?
Call.
Excuse me?
An invitation.
Let's get ready to rumble.
To lure or entice.
Hell, man.
Booty Call.
Did you see that tarantula hair fool?
A late-night amorous encounter.
He looked like Predator.
A chance to knock the boots.
These beautiful eyes, those cheekbones.
Booty Call.
And I love the little mustache.
Rated R. Opens everywhere tomorrow. Wednesday, it's the most dramatic night of television on television. First, it will shock you.
Call a doctor. Some guy just OD'd next door.
And it will rock their lives.
He's dead? I can't believe that he was doing heroin.
Hey, Ron Swoboda looks at Xavier before it got its rep with med schools and
The sea. She is essential to all our lives. We sail her for pleasure and to carry our massive cargoes. She provides us with sustenance. For thousands of years, we have searched for more sophisticated ways to master the sea, but to no avail. She remains our master. Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, a small fishing village, proudly holding dear the seafaring traditions of the bygone era. And once did a ship named Margaret Jane sail its misty harbor. Among her crew, 3 friends, forever haunted by the unforgettable events of a foggy day.
I've known Mitch and Smitty my whole life. We grew up together, went to school together, played sports together, and ended up fishing together.
It was like
one big family out there, 17 men. You get, you know, to be friends with everybody.
We go to a traditional fishing grounds called George's Banks, which is probably 100 miles off the southernmost tip of Nova Scotia.
Returning home from a routine scalloping trip, a sinister murk descends upon them.
In the fog, you stand wheel watches, look in the radar, keep a lookout for other boats. It was thick of fog at the time, so visibility was zero.
We're on deck, and you're hearing the foghorn going. We're reducing our speed. The frequency of the foghorn was going more and more and louder and louder. And I was sure at that point, well, we're close to something or something's close to us. I heard this loud bang.
Took a jolt and hit the wall. Chief engineer, he said, "We've been hit."
I looked up and I could see this huge bow right in the side of our ship.
Like a shark tearing into flesh, the Cape Beaver, a steel-hulled behemoth on its maiden voyage, rips a 20-foot hole into the smaller wooden ship.
I could hear all kinds of things snapping and cracking and popping and banging, like the engine room was coming apart.
In fact, the entire ship was coming apart.
I ran up to the boat deck, and I saw the mate trying to get a dory over the side. By the time I got to my dory and helped the mate take about 2 or 3 turns off of a rope, the water was at my feet.
We proceeded to throw the life raft overboard. And by the time it finished blowing up and we jumped off the boat, we were already up to our knees in water inside the wheelhouse.
She sank with shocking speed. Desperately, the crew struggled to avoid being pulled down by the mighty suction created by the sinking ship.
By the time I came up from underneath the water, the boat was already gone. There was life raft upside down. I proceeded to scramble up on that, and I think Alan popped up next. I believe he scrambled up the top, too.
I was in shock, you know, and wondering, how is everybody? Where is everybody? Who's here and who isn't? But I remember, I guess, looking up at the other ship, and you can hear them directing, giving orders to get a lifeboat over the side. There's guys in the water. You know, I'm thinking we're going to lose these guys. And I'd say within a minute, there's a rope ladder. They pull us up over the side, and we're just there on the deck. And then there seemed to be some people out around, just floating around by themselves. Some of them had life jackets. And there was a rowboat. They got a rowboat off, and they were rowing around, picking people up. We're all in the galley, I guess, trying to stop shaking and shivering and, you know, wondering what happened. The search continued, but there was no one found.
Families and friends had received news of the distress call. They knew the Margaret Jane had been lost, but little else.
You know, worried about your family because they're inshore and probably wondering who survived, who drowned, and who made it. We're going home, and that was the most emotional time of the whole thing. You know, I guess the word spread around the community pretty fast that there were some people lost. And nobody really knew who it was for probably a couple of hours. You know, it's proof the ocean can be very romantic. It can also be very unforgiving when something goes wrong.
Through hundreds of years, Lunenburg has sacrificed many a son to its provider. Now it had given 4 more, plus 1 daughter, the Margaret Jane. Audience members are horrified when a monster truck slams into a crowded grandstand, and stadiums overflow with rage and mayhem, and nothing can stop the hysteria.
You're born, you go to school.
I think the thrill from putting oneself at risk or observing someone put himself at risk is very strong, and it likely will always be so. There is a certain fundamental attractiveness of danger and of loud, fast kinds of activities. Your heart races, you know you're alive when you're doing it or watching it, so you go back for more. I'm sure that there will be people to watch Daredevils as long as there are Daredevils.
Death-defying stunts inevitably attract a crowd. We build bigger and bigger arenas to contain the masses of spectators. They thrill at getting closer and closer to the action. But as more people are in proximity to these high-speed feats, the more people stand in peril's path.
I think the vast majority of people would not be expecting any harm to come to them or any of the spectators.
They're awesome. They're just awesome. They're so much fun. They're so loud. There's so much power. There's no other word for it. It's just awesome. It's amazing.
The monster truck is an overgrown pickup truck in every aspect. The tires, the build, the motor, everything. Faster, stronger, everything.
Part of the fun of it is eventually, you know, you might catch one tipping over. You might catch one with a wheel breaking off or something like that. I believe that's part of the fun of it.
Everybody wants to see a crash or a rollover or something like that. It's exciting.
In upstate New York, hundreds of people pack into a small arena. The second-to-last race has begun. The outcome will shock everyone.
I was sitting 15 rows up, leaning against the railing where the monster truck hit.
When he hit the ground and the bead cracked on the right rear tire, the bead cracked, which softened the tire, and it shot it to the left. That's the only reason the truck went to the left. That would have went straight. Yeah, he was knocked out, the driver.
You hear people screaming and people shouting.
It was chaos. Everybody was kind of running around. They didn't want anyone to go over there. It looked like 15 people were killed. It really did, because there was a crowd of people, a circle of people, of a good 10, 15 people, right where the truck was going.
I was following it, and I'm watching the truck come closer and closer and closer, and all of a sudden I said, wait a minute, something's wrong. So I grabbed the camera, and I pulled it off to the side, and I snapped the picture, and at that moment, that's when the truck hit.
It was the following day we heard about Lester Gilliam saving the child's life. I couldn't believe it. I ran that through my head probably for 3 or 4 days, that somebody would think about a stranger's life before their own. I don't know if I would do that. I mean, he's a hero. There's no greater sacrifice than your life, right?
What you see is a monster truck hitting the abutment, and you see a man, a brave man, trying to get out of the way, because moments before that he had just pushed a 10-year-old boy out of the way, and basically what you see is the last picture of this man before the end of his life.
Lester Gilliam's 2 sons were standing right next to their dad as the monster truck slammed into the stands.
I just remember a loud, abnormal loud noise, the noise getting louder and louder, louder than what it should be. And looking up and seeing the truck right in front of me, then getting hit.
As he starts coming towards you, you think, he's going to stop. But then you realize he's not going to stop.
James Fiegel was 10 years old when Lester Gilliam saved his life. Since then, he's been haunted that a brave man died so that he could live. Today, he's going to meet the Gilliam boys for the first time.
James, yeah. Oh, it's nice to meet you. Jake Gilliam?
How you doing, Jake? How you been, buddy?
Very good.
Mrs. Dan.
How you doing? Glad to see you.
I'm here. I'm sorry that you guys lost your dad.
Thank
and that I wish he was here today alive. Because I would like to thank him personally for saving my life.
My father's actions are, you know, what he did. And it's something we would have expected of him. He was that type of person.
He's a real hero for me, and that I'm gonna look up to that day until I die too.
Thank you.
There's no thanks in the world that I could tell these people. Nothing's gonna replace them. I think of these people as my family now. They're considered my family for what that guy did.
At the end, going out the way he did, it helps. He didn't give his life in vain. He helped somebody else.
Lester Gilliam, a tragic hero, another face in the crowd. But what is a crowd? A teeming mass of individuals forming a single entity that can be a danger unto itself. Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Stands overflow with soccer fans and a railing collapses, sending people plunging over the edge, landing on the unsuspecting fans below. Remarkably, no one is killed. Again, Rio de Janeiro. Another soccer game where an overexcited crowd leans out too far, causing the railing to buckle under their weight. A major tragedy is averted. Only minor injuries are suffered. Madison, Wisconsin. University football fans trying to rush the field after a victory accidentally crush fellow students. Paramedics attend to the 75 that are injured. Luckily, no one dies. Brussels, Belgium, a soccer game. The competitive frenzy of the fans erupts into a riot. Dozens are mashed against a wall with such agonizing force that it crumbles, crushing many below. The police are called to quell the chaos. The tragic tally, 42 dead, over 200 injured. Safety in numbers. Obviously, all cliches are not true. When disasters strike, we'll be right back. What price are we willing to pay for our high standard of living? As long as we push the envelope in every aspect of our lives, we must be prepared for the consequences of our actions. It's not a question of if, but when disasters strike.
Coming up on Fox 8 News at 9, it's the latest attack by a man who's dressed up like a woman.
I won't be doing laundry or taking out my garbage late at night.
Next, witnesses say he's wearing a dress, a wig, and high-heeled shoes. Also coming up, a stern new warning from the Vatican involving Catholics and divorce. And Bob's forecast calls for a big change later this week. That plus shoot, don't shoot. Next on Fox 8 News at 9.